All right. What is today? Today is Wednesday. Wonderful Wednesday, everyone. Wonderful Wednesday to you. So great to see you. So let me hop on real quick before I get out of here and start running around in these streets here. Wanted to hop on and just say something to everybody this morning. Okay. As you guys know, I am the hope pusher, and I actually believe that one conversation helps somebody move from where they are to where they want to be, right? One conversation can actually help somebody move from where they are to where they want to be. And while every conversation isn't for everybody, my hope is that every conversation is for somebody. So let's talk about it, guys. All right. Today's conversation is simple. All right. What we're talking about today is, what do you see consistently? Okay. What do you see consistently? All right. And I'm not talking about what you see in your eyes. All right. What do you see with your mind? What actually occupies your thoughts consistently? And what do you find yourself visualizing like over and over and over again? And the reason why I wanted to have this conversation is because I've actually been thinking about this a lot myself. Because if I'm honest, there's some people who what they visualize or what they think about all the time is simply like the past, the rear view mirror type of things. They get stuck into replaying what has happened before, right? But that's not really my personality, right? I don't get stuck in that area where I'm replaying the past and driving through the rear view mirror when you're supposed to only drive through the windshield and things of that nature, right? Um, but what I do is that I tend to keep myself busy when I'm in a state where um things are just like really occupying my mind. I could think about when I was going through my separation and my divorce and stuff, and how at a point, this was during a transition time that I transitioned from being a regular steward in the workplace at Verizon to being asked to step up and take a position as a local union officer. And that required that now that I was going into the union hall, I was sitting in an office with a door and four walls and not having people to run around and save all day long. And the moment that things slowed down for me, what happened is that, oh, I felt like the water was coming in on me. Okay, I felt like the water I'm just treading with my chin right above the water, right? And I began to have anxiety attacks and all this other kind of stuff. And so that was kind of like the first time that I realized that it wasn't that I was like so much um the best person or my best self at that moment, for lack of better words. I wasn't my best self at that moment, but keeping busy distracting me from what was bothering me. I guess if that makes sense, right? So for me, I just continue to I avoid things by being busy to help people, by busy building things, by creating things or solving problems or showing up, at places, and just keep on moving, right? And maybe there's some people that could relate. Sometimes your past is trying to occupy your mind and slow you down is not something that you dwell on, but something that you replace with other things, right? Until they go, right? And sometimes when you're doing that kind of movement, you may not realize that you're using that as an alternative to deal with the feelings that you have going inside yourself, because actually all that movement can feel productive, right? And sometimes it actually is productive. But what I've actually learned is that, being busy and allowing it to distract you from what's going through and what's on your mind and what could be occupying your mind is not the same thing as being healed. Okay. They're not the same things. Um, Being active and being at peace aren't the same things either, because the fact lives that there's been seasons in my life where I've just stayed moving, right? Um, And the moment that that movement stopped, or if I was working on a project or whatever it might have been, the moment that that project stopped or that event ended, the moment the phone stops ringing, the moment that you start have opening slots for your calendar and things of that nature, those distractions then disappear. And that's when you feel like everything caves in on you and your head is just above the water. And that's when I realized that just because I'm thinking about something all day didn't mean that I had dealt with it, right? So, hey guys, as y'all come on, say hello to me so I can speak to you, all right? Um, it wasn't that we think that we're dealing with some of our problems sometimes, and we're not dealing with some of the problems, right? When we're busy, we might be outrunning those problems at that time, right? We might be outworking those problems at that time, right? So, I just realized I had just kept myself busy long enough to not really hear what was going on inside of me. And I think a lot of us do that, right? I mean, somebody out there should be able to understand what I'm talking about. And that's what made me ask the question for today's topic: what do I actually see consistently? Again, not what you see with your eyes, but what do you see consistently? Um, does your vision really does your vision reveal your future, or is your vision simply just rehearsing your past? Some of us just don't think about that, right? Because and it's important for us to really examine that and figure it out, because whatever we're consistently seeing is definitely going to influence what we pursue. Many of the things that we take for granted today were once nothing more than a vision in somebody's mind. You got to think about it. When it comes to a house, right? A house was not always a house. There was times that people actually lived in caves, and they lived in tents or temporary shelters, whatever it may be. And then somebody envisions something different that benefits a lot of us. Somebody saw the possibility before it actually became reality. In addition, we could think about it applies the same to a car. Cars weren't always cars. People were walking around, people were riding horses, people traveled in wagons. And again, somebody saw the possibility. And that's the reason why we're driving in cars today. Airplanes, I mean, the light bulb. I mean, there's so many things that you think about. People laughed probably when the Wright brothers was saying, we're gonna fly, right? They thought they was crazy. People laughed at Thomas Edison when he talked about the light bulb. What you mean? The only way that we're ever gonna get light is we're gonna use candles, we're gonna use lanterns, we're gonna use fires and all this other kind of stuff, right? But the thing is that the only way things improve around us is that somebody believes that there's a better way. So a lot of stuff that we look at today as being normal simply only started with an idea, a possibility, a vision, a thought. Somebody saw it before it even existed. And that's what we have to do when we are thinking about our future, right? We have to constantly see it. We have to wake up in the morning breathing it. We have to lay down at night breathing it. We got to have it on our mind in between multitasking with every minute, every moment of our day, in order to do this. Because if you don't keep it in front of you, if you don't keep your vision of what you believe can happen for you, or what you could create, or whatever, what kind of talents you've been given to by God that you're not utilizing, all you're going to do is consistently see limitations within it, right? Um, and you don't want to live from your limitations, because if you think about limitations, all you're going to consistently see is an obstacle. You're going to make decisions from a place of fear. And when you make decisions from a place of fear, the moment that you get disappointed, that's when you decide to always expect disappointment, or that's when you start getting comfortable with quitting and so much more, right? But if we start seeing it with a possibility and we see it as an opportunity, or we start seeing these things as areas of growth, if we start seeing that we are healing, if we start making decisions to begin to change, and we start acting out and using actions, not just saying it from our mouth, and having those actions to begin to change, that's going to take and actually build up your confidence, because your confidence begins with change. That's the only way you're going to get confident, is because you begin with change, right? So, in all of that doing, it's kind of like when people talk about, oh, I decide that I'm going to give my life over to Christ, right? That doesn't mean that everything is going to be perfect. When you decide to change and you start living and looking at your future, that doesn't mean that everything is going to become easy for you either, right? You have to remember that life is going to continue to happen regardless. People are going to disappoint you. You're going to see dreams that are going to be delayed, but delays do not mean that it's denied. And sometimes plans don't always work out. We might end up losing friends or people. We may lose opportunities. We may end up making some kind of mistakes. But the real thing that we have to remember is that our past contains lessons. Our past is what we draw our wisdom from. Our past contains experiences, right? But your past was never meant to become your permanent address. And that's the problem, that some people get stuck in their past as their permanent address. And that prevents you from moving forward. That prevents you from turning those visions into reality. Okay. And sometimes I don't even think we even realize how much mental space we're actually giving to things that happened years ago. Right. Not because we're dwelling on them, but because they're just still influencing what we believe to be possible. You may not think about it, but you're thinking about it. And the reason why you're thinking about it is because it's being displayed in your actions about what you're not willing to try, because in the past you failed at it, and it's preventing you from moving forward and doing it again. It's just crazy. Those things really do influence what we believe is possible. And they're influencing how we actually see ourselves and what we believe that we are deserving of, right? What we give ourselves permission to do, right? They're influencing the type of risk that we're willing to take, and things of that nature. There is a quote that's what's up, you hear it in different ways, that people talk about being attributed to Thomas Edison, that apparently he was interviewed at one time, and when he was interviewed, somebody asked him about how he felt about the thousands or the 10,000 failures that he had before, the number of attempts that he had taken towards the light bulb. And the essence of the response, regardless of whether it was the word failures or steps that he has taken, or whether it was 1,000 or 10,000, the thing is that what he did, he simply discovered that he had an invention that had 1,000 steps, not 1,000 failures, not 1,000 attempts. It just had 1,000 steps. And the point that I'm making about pointing that out is that it's all about your perspective. How are you looking at things? How do you see failure? How do you see progress? How do you view setbacks and things of that nature, right? That can only make you wonder. I mean, when you think about it for your own self, or when I think about it for myself, I mean, how many things have I called failures that were actually steps? And how many opportunities have I abandoned because I thought it was a setback and it was meant to stop me, right? How many dreams over the time have I actually postponed because the process didn't happen fast enough, or I didn't have the support around me that I needed to have it? you know, because sometimes we're looking at the middle of the story and we're acting like it is the ending of the book. I talked about that in one of the other conversations the other day, right? We're judging the process before the process is even finished yet. So, with that being said, I just want to ask you again, what do you see consistently? When you think about your future, what do you see? Are you seeing possibilities? Are you seeing purpose? Are you seeing growth? Are you seeing healing? Are you seeing abundance? Are you seeing opportunity? Or are you just constantly find yourself returning to what happened in the past? If someone could actually sit inside of your thoughts and look at what you've been thinking about for the last 30 days, would they be able to tell that you're trying? Would they be able to tell where you're trying to go? Or would they only know where you've been? Think about it again. Would they be able to tell where you're trying to go, or would they only know where you've been? Could a person step inside your thoughts and see your vision? Or are they only going to see your memories? Because what we consistently see determines what we're going to pursue. So that's today's hope pusher conversation, all right? It's your girl Tasha. That YGT's for your girl Tasha, but it's also for you got this. And y'all all know that my favorite word is BAM because I'm always being authentically me. Y'all have and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Later.